Imagine a profound truth, a revelation so raw it reshaped the very landscape of human understanding. Carl Jung unveiled that the very shadows we perceive in others are often reflections of our own unacknowledged depths. This wasn't merely an academic theory. It was a brutal personal revelation, one that fractured his most significant relationship and irrevocably altered the course of psychology. In 1912, Carl Jung was Sigmund Freud's protégé, the anointed successor, poised to inherit the future of psychoanalysis. Yet, a gnawing unrest plagued Jung. Every glance at his esteemed mentor ignited a deep-seated disgust. Freud's relentless obsession with sex, his insatiable hunger for intellectual veneration, his iron grip of authoritarian control over every emerging idea, these traits became Jung's focal point of attack. Through fervent letters, compelling lectures, and heated public debates, Jung denounced Freud as narrow-minded, power-hungry, and intellectually rigid. But here lies the profound irony, a truth Jung himself was initially blind to. He was gazing into a mirror. The very characteristics he so vehemently despised in Freud were the exact traits lurking within his own shadow, his own yearning for control, his own intellectual fixations, his own hunger for recognition and worship. This devastating, yet ultimately liberating discovery would become Jung's most pivotal insight into the intricate tapestry of human psychology. We don't truly despise people for who they are. We despise them for who we are. The shadow is that unlit chamber within your soul, the parts of yourself you've disowned and exiled. It's the angry, jealous, petty, or controlling person you desperately pretend doesn't exist. But here's the unsettling truth Jung unearthed. This hidden self wields far more influence over your life than you can possibly imagine. Every time someone grates on your nerves, ignites a fierce reaction, or sends your blood boiling, they are inadvertently holding up a fragment of your own shadow for you to see. That disruptive co-worker who constantly interrupts meetings. They are reflecting your own unexpressed need to be heard, perhaps even your hidden desire for a bolder voice. That perpetually selfish friend who monopolizes every conversation. They are mirroring a hidden narcissism within you, a part that also yearns to be the center, yet you've condemned it. Jung termed this projection. We cast our shadows onto others because it's infinitely less confronting to criticize them than it is to bravely turn the gaze inward. However, Jung's journey of self-discovery led him to something even more potent. When you finally summon the courage to face your shadow, a remarkable transformation occurs. You don't just cease to be triggered by others. You unlock dormant parts of yourself you never knew existed. The anger you've been projecting outward can be transmuted into a powerful, purposeful passion. The selfishness you've fiercely denied can become a healthy, empowering sense of self-care and boundary setting. The very darkness you've been running from can evolve into your greatest wellspring of personal power. In the illuminating moments that follow, we will embark on a journey to uncover Jung's 3 profound shadow discoveries, insights that promise to fundamentally reshape how you perceive yourself and everyone around you. This isn't just about the historical dynamic between Jung and Freud, but about empowering you to harness their psychological breakthrough to profoundly transform your own life. By the end, you will grasp the profound wisdom in Jung's words. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. So, I ask you now, with an open heart, what if the person who annoys you most is actually your most profound teacher? What if everything you resent about them is a signpost pointing directly to something within you that yearns for healing and integration? The liberating truth about your hidden self awaits. Are you ready to bravely face it? Before Jung could illuminate the shadow for humanity, he had to live through its darkest valleys. His tumultuous relationship with Freud became the crucible, the perfect laboratory for the most agonizing psychological experiment of his life. Picture this. 1907. Jung, a brilliant young psychiatrist, idolized Freud. He saw him as the luminary, the intellectual patriarch, the one who had unlocked the profound secrets of the human mind. Jung traveled to Vienna, brimming with anticipation, to meet his hero. At first, their connection was electric, almost mythic. Freud embraced Jung like a cherished son, and Jung felt chosen, uniquely special, destined for a grand future. But slowly, subtly, a fissure began to appear. Jung started to notice aspects of Freud that deeply irritated him. Freud's relentless need to dominate every conversation, his unwavering obsession with being unequivocally right, his startling inability to ever concede a mistake. Jung's criticisms began in private, then escalated to letters, and finally erupted into public debate. Freud is too rigid, Jung lamented. He believes his way is the only way. He cannot tolerate being challenged. Yet, Jung's profound wisdom reveals that this identity collapse, though unsettling, is not a breakdown but a breakthrough, an absolutely essential prerequisite for authentic selfhood to gloriously emerge. The persona, that carefully constructed image, was never your true essence. It was simply the garment you wore, the protective chrysalis, as you navigated the journey of discovering the magnificent being you actually are. This is where Jung's insight becomes a guiding star, illuminating why you can no longer force yourself to care. The old motivations simply no longer serve the evolving you. Jung made a revelation about lazy geniuses that troubled him so deeply he initially hesitated to publish it. They don't just think differently, they access a collective intelligence that others simply cannot reach. Consider the last person who genuinely infuriated you. What specific quality about them truly bothered you? Were they arrogant, selfish, controlling, or perhaps inauthentic? Now, for the uncomfortable yet essential question: could those very same traits exist within you, perhaps in a more subtle or suppressed form? Jung stumbled upon this truth the hard way. Every single criticism he leveled at Freud was, in essence, a criticism of his own unacknowledged self. Freud became his unwilling shadow mirror, reflecting back all the parts of Jung he refused to own. Let me offer a contemporary illustration. Sarah, a marketing professional, harbors a deep aversion for her colleague, David, who consistently takes credit for others' ideas. "He's so selfish," she complains. "He never acknowledges anyone else's contributions." But when Sarah bravely undertakes a candid self-examination, a discomforting realization emerges. She, too, is quick to claim credit when projects succeed. She, too, sometimes forgets to highlight her teammates' contributions. And she, too, yearns for recognition and praise. It's a magnificent recalibration of the psyche, shifting its compass from the fleeting allure of external rewards towards the radiant magnetic north of internal authenticity, what we might call the ego to soul transition. Your consciousness has beautifully outgrown the need to prove its worth through external activities. This explains the quiet confusion you feel when well-meaning friends inquire, "Why don't you paint anymore?" How do you articulate that painting once nourished a part of you that, through awakening, has now found its own deep, abiding sustenance and no longer hungers? Jung's relationship with Freud spiraled into toxicity precisely because neither man could peer into their own shadow. They relentlessly projected their denied traits onto each other, perpetuating an agonizing cycle of criticism and conflict. The pivotal breakthrough arrived when Jung finally dared to ask himself, what if everything I despise about Freud also exists within me? That single question shattered his reality, not only for Jung himself but for the entire field of psychology. Because Jung realized that shadow work isn't about attempting to fix other people, it's about courageously reclaiming the vital parts of yourself you've been unconsciously giving away. If your former passions now feel like a forced performance rather than an overflowing fount of genuine passion, know you are not alone. This transitional period, often perceived as a spiritual emptiness, is in truth a profound spiritual preparation. It's a sacred pause where your soul is learning to create, to express, and to engage not from the hurried whispers of anxiety, but from the deep, resonant wisdom of authenticity. But Jung's intrepid exploration delved even deeper into the enigma of why hobbies lose their allure post-awakening. He unveiled a potent truth. Many of your cherished pastimes weren't merely ego boosters. They functioned as what Jung termed shadow managers, intricate, often unconscious strategies designed to circumvent and avoid confronting emotions you weren't yet prepared to face. This is the profound hobby as escape revelation. Here is Jung's profound shadow mirror technique. The next time someone profoundly irritates you, pause and ask yourself 3 illuminating questions. 1. What specific trait about this person bothers me most intensely? 2. How might this very same trait exist, perhaps subtly, within me? Suddenly, you may find yourself sitting before your easel, not entering a state of flowing creativity, but instead acutely feeling the very loneliness you once sought to evade. You pick up your guitar, not to get lost in its melodies, but to confront the deep, unspoken grief you've been skillfully outrunning. Or perhaps you step onto the running path, only to find the anxiety you once sprinted away from now running alongside you. Jung's documented process is elegant. The conscious mind gracefully steps back, allowing the rich tapestry of unconscious content to emerge. Fantasy and imagination become the fertile raw material for groundbreaking creative insights. The individual acts as a translator, converting these profound archetypal images into practical applications that can transform the world. The entire process appears effortless because it is driven by a deep, inner necessity, not by external pressure or demanding deadlines. Jung emphasized that this sacred play instinct cannot be scheduled or optimized. Type 3. The vulnerability violator. Jung noted people who specifically target an empath's inherent openness and trusting nature. These individuals have been so deeply hurt that they have closed their hearts completely, and they unconsciously punish empaths for daring to maintain emotional availability. These trust destroyers take advantage of empathic openness, then cruelly blame empaths for being too trusting, rather than acknowledging their own profound betrayal of that sacred trust. He could continue to cling to the illusion that he was fundamentally different from his mentor, or he could bravely admit that every criticism he had leveled at Freud resided, in some form, within his own being. This is what Jung termed shadow integration, the profound process of consciously owning the parts of yourself you've been rejecting. But integration is rarely easy. Your ego, your self-image, will fiercely resist it at every turn. Jung experienced this fierce resistance during what he famously called his confrontation with the unconscious. Following his bitter break with Freud, Jung dedicated years to meticulously analyzing his own dreams, fantasies, and psychological patterns. What he discovered was initially terrifying. He wasn't solely the wise, spiritually attuned psychologist he aspired to be. He was also petty, jealous, angry, and undeniably power-hungry. He possessed the very same flaws he had spent years criticizing in others. Jung identified 3 specific dangers that made this psychological dynamic a serious, even existential threat to both individual empaths and humanity's collective emotional evolution. The very goals that once ignited your spirit, the thrill of winning competitions, the satisfaction of completing projects, the warmth of external recognition, suddenly feel hollow, devoid of their former resonance. This isn't apathy, it's a profound recalibration, a clear signal that your consciousness has ascended to a different, more expansive level of reality, rendering old metrics of success irrelevant. Jung meticulously documented this universal pattern across diverse cultures and countless centuries. He observed that when individuals embark upon genuine spiritual transformation, they inevitably journey through a period where their previously cherished sources of meaning become, quite simply, psychologically irrelevant. Before awakening, your compass was largely set by what Jung termed collective values. the shared societal agreements about what truly matters, what is worthy of pursuit, and what ultimately brings fulfillment. Danger. 2. Psychological self-betrayal. Jung documented how empaths often internalize the barrage of criticism they receive, tragically beginning to perceive their empathy as a flaw rather than a gift. They start believing they are too much or too sensitive, instead of recognizing that others are often too little and too numb. The greatest tragedy occurs when the empath begins, attacking their own emotional nature with the same violence others have directed toward them. They become their own emotional assassin, extinguishing their inner flame with their own hand. Jung termed this profound phase, the collision with meaninglessness, a crucial stage where previously significant activities suddenly feel utterly empty. This isn't a flaw in you. It's because they were rooted in unexamined assumptions about life's purpose. This explains those moments lying in bed, staring at untouched art supplies, a pervasive sense that nothing truly matters. Your consciousness has simply expanded, soaring far beyond the limited meaning system that once gave those activities their weight. He wrote, "The suppression of empathic individuals represents humanity's unconscious rejection of its own emotional potential. We attack in others what we most need to reclaim within ourselves." This is precisely why Jung considered the unwavering protection and development of empathic individuals absolutely essential for human psychological advancement and spiritual awakening. Jung experienced this identical transformation within himself. The very traits he had so fiercely criticized in Freud became the bedrock, the foundation of his own revolutionary psychological innovations. His need for control evolved into his remarkable ability to structure new, groundbreaking therapeutic methods. His intellectual hunger became his insatiable drive to explore the uncharted territories of the human mind. His desire for recognition morphed into his powerful motivation to develop theories that would resonate and endure far beyond his lifetime. But shadow integration demands a specific, intentional technique. Jung meticulously developed what we can call the integration practice. Here's how it works, step by step. Jung drew a crucial distinction between persona activities and self-activities. Persona activities are those that serve the mask you present to the world, the external role. Self-activities, conversely, are those that serve the deeper, undeniable truth of who you are. Before awakening, a vast majority of your hobbies, though cherished, were often persona activities, cleverly disguised as genuinely authentic interests, like a beautiful costume concealing the actor beneath. 2. Find the gift within it. Ask yourself, with curiosity and compassion, how could this trait, if owned consciously, actually serve me and my highest good? 3. Practice conscious expression. Actively seek out healthy, constructive ways to express this integrated trait in your daily life. What is now emerging, what is stirring within you, belongs to the actually are version, the authentic, unvarnished you. This is precisely why you cannot and should not attempt to force your old interests back to life. You would be trying to resurrect activities that were tied to a psychological identity that, through your evolution, no longer exists. It's akin to trying to squeeze into clothes that no longer fit, not because your physical form has changed, but because your very being has expanded and grown psychologically, leaving the old garments behind. 1. She identified the shadow trait, wanting credit and recognition. 2. She found the gift. Her desire for recognition was, in essence, her powerful drive for excellence and impact. Yet, Jung wisely cautioned that this sacred emergence cannot be rushed. The authentic self unfolds in its own divine timing, like a flower unfurling its petals. Your profound task is not to force new passions into existence, but to cultivate a patient, trusting openness to what genuinely wishes to emerge naturally from within. Jung, recognizing the delicate nature of this transition, developed specific, illuminating insights on how to gracefully navigate this passage from the silence of dormant hobbies to the vibrant symphony of authentic expression. Sarah discovered that owning her need for recognition made her more confident, more effective, and more authentically herself, rather than becoming more selfish. This is the profound power of shadow integration. You cease wasting vital energy fighting against parts of yourself and instead begin channeling that energy into becoming truly whole. But Jung's third revolutionary discovery illuminates precisely why this entire process is so utterly transformative. Jung's third shadow discovery fundamentally reshaped everything he believed about human potential, because when you fully integrate your shadow, you don't merely heal old psychological wounds. You unlock a level of personal power, creativity, and authenticity you never even knew existed within you. If gaming quieted anxiety, practice being fully present with that anxiety, observing it with courage. After years of dedicated shadow work, Jung observed something truly remarkable within himself. He wasn't just less reactive or triggered by others. He was demonstrably more creative, more confident, more emotionally resilient, and more capable than ever before. The immense energy he had previously expended suppressing his shadow was now liberated, available for profound personal growth and creative expression. The traits he had once battled against were now working for him rather than against him. This is Jung's third monumental shadow discovery. When you integrate your shadow, you don't lose your so-called dark traits. You transform them into conscious, directed power. Jung realized that the shadow contains not just your denied flaws, but also your vast, unrealized potential. All those qualities you've harshly labeled as bad or unacceptable are in fact raw, untamed power, waiting to be refined and wisely channeled. Let me illustrate this transformative process with a real-world example. Meet Elena, a talented graphic designer who struggles deeply with her co-worker James. James is intensely competitive, always striving to outshine everyone else's work. He's so aggressive, Elena complains. Everything is a constant competition with him. Using Jung's shadow mirror, Elena bravely asks herself, "How am I competitive and aggressive?" Elena's initial reaction is fierce denial. "I'm not competitive, I'm collaborative. I support my teammates." But as Elena delves deeper, she uncovers her own hidden competitiveness. She does compare her work to others. She does want to be the best. She does feel a pang of threat when someone else receives praise. The crucial difference is that Elena has been rigorously suppressing these natural human feelings, while James expresses them openly, perhaps even unconsciously. This is where Jung's power transformation begins. Instead of judging her competitive nature, Elena starts to consciously integrate it. She realizes that competition, when channeled properly and ethically, becomes a powerful drive for excellence. Aggression, when directed appropriately and assertively, transforms into unwavering assertiveness and determination. Elena begins to set higher, more ambitious standards for her own work. She starts advocating for her ideas more forcefully and articulately. She channels her competitive energy into creating truly exceptional, groundbreaking designs. In the morning of life, hobbies beautifully serve ego development, helping you cultivate skills, build confidence, forge social connections, and solidify identity. But in the afternoon of life, activities must transcend mere ego. They must serve soul development. They transform into sacred vehicles for self-discovery, profound meaning-making, and truly authentic expression. This is why attempting to resuscitate your old hobbies feels so utterly futile. They ask about your emotional experiences with genuine curiosity, not judgment. They appreciate your empathic insights rather than criticizing your sensitivity. For those in later life who, after awakening, feel a profound loss of purpose, Jung would offer this wisdom. The rediscovery or development of new interests, deeply aligned with this richer, deeper phase of existence, is not just beneficial, but crucial. But these new interests won't often resemble traditional hobbies. Instead, they will manifest as spiritual practices, authentic creative expressions, acts of selfless service, or deeply contemplative pursuits, activities that nourish the soul's evolving journey. Jung developed what we can call the power transformation technique. Here's how it works. 1. Identify your shadow's raw power. What fundamental energy or drive lies beneath the trait you've been rejecting? The community-building process Jung advocated involves gradually revealing your authentic nature while carefully observing how others respond. Begin with small, gentle expressions of empathic insight. Notice whether people genuinely appreciate or subtly resent your emotional awareness. Assess whether they protect or violate your emotional boundaries. Gradually increase your authenticity with those who consistently demonstrate appreciation and respect. Create a compassionate, yet firm, distance from those who consistently attack or diminish your empathic nature. Jung emphasized, the goal is not to hide your light, but to share it wisely with those who can appreciate its beauty rather than resent its brightness. True, authentic transformation, Jung knew, demands a full, courageous letting go before any genuine newness can beautifully emerge from the fertile void. Second, Jung advocated for shadow befriending. Rather than evading the emotions your hobbies once skillfully managed, consciously cultivate a direct, compassionate relationship with them. If painting was your escape from loneliness, now learn to sit with loneliness itself. If gaming quieted anxiety, practice being fully present with that anxiety, observing it with courage. Jung's remarkable insight revealed that when you cease running from shadow emotions via hobby distractions, those very emotions transmute into powerful, creative energy. Loneliness deepens into profound connection. Stage 1. Recognition without suppression. The first profound transformation occurs when empaths learn to recognize resentment directed toward them as mere projection, rather than accurate feedback about their worth. Jung called this projection immunity. He observed, wisdom begins when the empath stops believing that others' inability to tolerate their light means they should dim it. The problem lies not in being too much, but in others having become too little. This is a powerful reclamation of self. Third, Jung proposed authentic experimentation. Playfully try activities entirely new to you, not to achieve mastery, but to simply discover what resonates with your emerging, authentic self. Perhaps it's writing, gardening, cooking, contemplative walking, or the profound peace of silent meditation. Jung termed this active imagination, an invitation for your true self to explore new avenues of expression, free from the constraints of performance or achievement. Remember, the true goal isn't just finding new hobbies, but discovering the fresh, vibrant ways your true nature yearns to move through the world. This integration phase, Jung reminds us, demands profound patience and unwavering trust. Your authentic interests will unfurl in their own divine timing when your psyche is truly ready. Forcing this process erects new personas. Allowing, however, nurtures genuine self-discovery and soul-sourced expression. Stage 3. Community creation without compromise. The third transformation happens when empaths wisely stop trying to gain acceptance from those who resent authenticity and, instead, focus their precious energy on building relationships with those who genuinely appreciate it. Jung wrote, the empath's evolution requires releasing the desperate need to be understood by everyone and focusing on being truly known by the right people. Quality of connection matters infinitely more than quantity of acceptance. They provided identity, a sense of achievement, a welcome escape, and connection when you hadn't yet learned how to access these vital elements directly from within. But awakening signifies a profound maturation. You no longer need external activities to feel whole. Jung called this integrated creativity, the sublime capacity to create, to play, to engage, not from a place of psychological neediness, but from a wellspring of profound psychological fullness. When activities grace your life once more, they will serve pure expression rather than compensation. Perhaps painting returns, but now it is a meditative communion with color, not a quest for external validation. Music may resurface, but it will be a heartfelt expression of your soul's song, not an ego-driven performance. Physical activity might resurge, but as a joyful celebration of your body's vitality, rather than an attempt at fixing or perfecting it. Jung's profound observation was that individuals who bravely complete this hobby-death transition emerge far more creative, more authentically vibrant than they ever were before. But their creativity is now consecrated to life itself, not to a projected image, to pure authenticity, not to external achievement, to overflowing love, not to a sense of lack. This is why Jung considered the hobby-death phenomenon not a sorrowful loss, but a sacred, transformative gift. It compels you to bravely discover the chasm between doing to prove yourself and doing to purely express your magnificent self. This single difference, once truly understood, changes everything. Jung dedicated decades to documenting this precise pattern because he recognized it as one of the most reliable, profound signs of genuine psychological maturation, the soul's deep blossoming. So, here lies Jung's complete, illuminating framework for understanding why your cherished hobbies gracefully receded after awakening and what that death truly signifies. Recall our initial revelation. Spiritual awakening often doesn't ignite your hobbies. It tenderly, yet fiercely, dissolves them. But now, you grasp the profound why. Those passions belonged to the ego-driven, shadow-avoiding, persona-building version of yourself. An identity that awakening, in its relentless pursuit of truth, necessarily and beautifully dissolves. Hear this truth. You are not broken because you can no longer force yourself to care about painting. You are not lazy because your guitar rests untouched. You are not depressed because your once vibrant passions now feel silent. No, dear soul, you are magnificently, courageously, psychologically evolving. Jung understood that this hobby death is, in its deepest essence, a profound psychological birth, the glorious emergence of an authentic self that carries its own completeness, needing no external activities to feel whole. What feels like a creative void is, in fact, a sacred creative preparation. Your soul had to gently, yet decisively, release your ego-driven hobbies before it could birth the radiant, soul-driven expressions that are truly yours. The emptiness you may be feeling is not a permanent void. It is profoundly fertile ground. Something magnificent and new is quietly, patiently growing in the sacred space where your old interests once resided. Jung dedicated his life to studying this precise transformation because he recognized it as one of the most vital, most profound psychological developments a human being can possibly undergo. You are not losing your creativity. You are gracefully graduating to authentic, soul-sourced creativity. The poignant question is no longer, how do I reclaim my old hobbies? But rather, what luminous new expressions yearn to be born through you now, as you stand in the magnificent wholeness that needs no external validation? If you are ready to bravely embrace this profound transformation, Jung would whisper to you, be patient with the sacred emptiness. Honor the death. Trust the unfolding process. Something deeply authentic, something truly magnificent, is striving to emerge through you, but only after you have fully and lovingly released what no longer serves your beautifully awakened consciousness. If this message has resonated with your soul, illuminating why your hobbies feel dormant, share this understanding with another who might be navigating similar confusion. Sometimes, the most profound healing comes from realizing we are not broken. We are courageously breaking through. Your authentic self, in its radiant truth, is undeniably worth the graceful dissolution of every interest you ever cultivated out of habit or external expectation. Jung understood this profound truth, and now may you too embrace it, knowing that your journey is one of glorious becoming.